Tonight, a new development for cold case detectives investigating a murder in our north. The family of a hit-and-run victim call out for justice. And more wild weather as a second cold front rolls in.
Live across Western Australia, GWN7 News with Noel Brunning.
Good evening. First tonight bears a new lead in the search for the killer of Broome man Josh Warneke. A car last seen on the night of the 2010 murder has never been seen again. Police hope the owner can help solve the cold case.
It's been 7.5 years since Josh Warneke was murdered walking home at night in Broome. And today, a possible new lead. The Cold Case Homicide Squad believe a car similar to this one could hold the key to unlocking the mystery behind Josh's murder.
It's a 79 series white utility, a Toyota. It's got a number of aerials on it. It had some Bundy novelty type number plates.
The 79 series Land Cruiser drove along Short Street into Old Broome Road on Friday, February 26, 2010, around the time Josh was killed. The car has never been seen again, and its owner and occupants have never been identified. Josh's mother, Ingrid Bishop, today pleading for people to come forward.
Please use this as an opportunity to share with the WA Police anything that you know, anything that you saw that night. You may not think that that's important, but it could actually be the vital key to finding out who killed my son.
It comes just days after the man wrongfully convicted over the bashing death of Josh Warneke filed for compensation. Gene Gibson spent 5 years behind bars for a crime he didn't commit.
That matter is still being processed by the State Solicitor's Office, and so I do not have an award to announce at this stage.
He's doing well, the family's doing well. It's just been a great outcome for him, and I'm really pleased. So I'm thrilled for him and his family.
In July, police launched a fresh investigation into Josh's murder, offering a $250,000 reward for information that leads to solving the murder and a possible pardon for any informant not principally responsible for Josh's death.
If you weren't directly involved in it, the reward is $250,000. If you're not a principal offender, but you know something about this, then come forward in confidence and come to police and tell us your story.
I hope today, with the announcement of the further information about the particular vehicle, that more people may come forward and identify themselves or give us some further information about that.
Simone Kerr, GWN7 News.
The family of a cyclist killed in a hit-and-run last week in Geraldton is pleading with the driver who hit him to come forward. 51-year-old Frank Fiocco was killed when he was knocked off his bike while riding on the Brand Highway.
There is somebody that knows who did it, and that's the person responsible. So please do come forward, because you have to live with this.
When Frank Fiocco died on Brand Highway last week, he left behind a wife and a young daughter. Major Crash are investigating the incident. They suspect he was hit by a heavy vehicle, most likely a truck.
Anybody who was driving from Perth to Geraldton in the early mornings to midday and may have had a dash cam on their vehicle, please do assist police.
Tony is Frank's cousin. They grew up in Geraldton together. In his 20s, Frank left home and moved to Bunbury, working as a cameraman for GWN7 before moving to Perth. His family says they'll miss his sense of humour.
The laughs is very, very funny. I think a lot of people will say that. He had good joke. Even him laughing was just funny and sweet.
Frank was actually quite he was a good boy, and he didn't have mean bone in his body. He was always very affable. He chose to be.
The experienced rider was wearing a high-visibility jacket when he was hit. Frank was visiting Geraldton for work. It's been more than a week since the crash, and the family are asking the public to help bring them closure.
You know, I guess if it was your partner, your uncle, your cousin, what would you want to happen? And we just sort of want answers.
Laura Burt, GWN7 News.
For the second day running, cyclone strength winds have ripped through our southwest, and today the goldfields copped a belting as well. At time, the wind gusts were strong enough to move parked cars.
Trees in Albany flattened after cyclonic winds tore through our southwest. In Bayonet Bay, the strong winds moved this parked four-wheel drive. This morning, the weather did not ease up.
Pretty stormy in Albany today.
This was the scene as a second cold front slammed into the southwest. A severe weather warning is still in place for the region, and now it's been extended to the goldfields, with Kalgoorlie, Meekatharra and Wiluna being hit by dangerous winds. This vision from Kalgoorlie shows a piece of roofing being blown off, narrowly missing a car.
We have generally a big storm towards the end of the season, and this is it.
Winds reached 112 kilometres an hour at Cape Lewin this morning, 111 kilometres per hour at Gooseberry Hill, and 104 at Ocean Reef. Authorities say that preparation before storms like this one is essential.
Inspect the house to make sure that the gutters are cleaned, no damage to the ridge capping, no loose items that can be carried away by the wind and cause damage.
The dangerous conditions caused power outages across the south, with parts of Augusta with blacked out last night. Here in Bunbury, over 350 homes were without power this morning. The Department of Fire and Emergency Services is urging people to take care on wet roads.
Just be safe, drive carefully and drive to the conditions.
The cold front is expected to ease this evening, but more wild weather is expected on Sunday. Brendan Crew, GWN7 News.
Parents who live in remote areas of WA are angry the state government is cutting subsidies they use to offset the cost of sending children to boarding school. They say they feel like they're getting punished for living in the bush.
When you live in remote WA, educating your children isn't easy. Many families use centres like the Kalgoorlie School of the Air to educate their kids through internet classes. When they get to high school age, they're sent off to boarding school, and it's not cheap.
$13,500 every year to do that. As of next year, that's going to raise closer to $14,000 per child.
With some parents spending up to $35,000 per child for agricultural or private schools. These parents are angry the state government announced it will cut their kids' $2,000 a year boarding away from home allowance by more than $600 a student over the next 4 years. They say they feel they're being punished for living remotely.
It's not a choice. We live there because that's where our work is. So, yeah, effectively they're punishing us by living out there and saying that you could live in a major centre. No, we can't.
Elise sends her kids to boarding school in Esperance. She says her family can't afford the fees for the schools in Perth.
We're approximately 440 k's of dirt road from Kalgoorlie itself.
Cattle station owner Emma Hogg's children aren't old enough to go to boarding school yet, but she says her family will be hit hard by the government cuts.
If the cost of boarding keeps rising and our grants and our funding are getting lower each year, then I could be looking at, a $20,000 just for a basic residential college and a public education.
They're calling on the state government to reconsider. Education Minister Sue Ellery told GWN7 News the cutbacks amount to only $160 a year. Kate Ryan, GWN7 News.
The Dolphin Discovery Centre in Bunbury has warned the public to be aware of turtles being washed up onto southwest beaches. More than 30 baby loggerhead turtles have already been rescued in the area over the past few months, and the current storm front in the region is expected to cause rough surf, throwing more of the turtles onto the sand. The advice is, if you find a turtle, don't return it to the ocean, but contact the Wildlife Emergency Hotline. Shauna Willis joins us now with proof there are places in WA that still have sunshine.
Yeah, thanks, Noel. Have a look at this photo taken yesterday from Cable Beach in lovely Broome. A big thanks to Ted Mullally for letting us know that our north is just perfect one day and, of course, beautiful the next. Thanks for that. Well, our south today was battered by that strong cold front. Now it brought, as we've seen, damaging winds, some heavy rainfall and thunderstorms through western districts this morning, and is moving into southeastern areas this afternoon and tonight. Now, as for temperatures, 40 degrees was our highest maximum. That was at Fitzroy Crossing. 37 there today for Derby. Port Hedland reached 35, and for Onslow, a nice top of 29. The West Coast, 25 for Shark Bay. Geraldton reached 22, and the northwesterlies right across the goldfields, 25 also you can see there for Kalgoorlie. Another wet and wild day south, 17 for Bunbury. Albany got to 16. Temperatures a little warmer east for Esperance, 21. Our overnight low was 7. That was recorded at Ayr. Now widespread rain till 9 a.m. from the Gascoyne to the Wheatbelt right down to the south coast there. 45 millimetres was the highest official report. That came from Thompson Brook in the southwest. Now it's their last weather wall report for the term. Our thanks to Mrs Gillies' class at Meckering Primary and to Cameron, Selwyn and Daisy at Wananami. Your weekend forecast is coming up.
Thank you, Shauna. Also still to come, a driver in his 60s cut from his car after a crash in Stratham, plus the Special Music Festival on a tour of some of our most remote communities.
Stay in touch 24/7 with GWN7 News.
Man has been airlifted to Royal Perth Hospital after a crash in Stratham this afternoon. It happened on the Boyanup Road near the Bustle Highway. Emergency services rushed to the scene and found the driver, who's believed to be in his 60s, trapped in the vehicle. They cut him free and transferred him to the emergency helicopter. The police are now investigating. A music festival which is touring through the Kimberley is proving a big hit with local communities. And for the musicians, it's a chance to play in front of people who otherwise don't get to experience this kind of special performance.
Bringing people together through music. The Echo Tour is a unique music festival currently travelling around the Kimberley.
It's the echoes that come out from the work that the artists do, their performances, and how that spreads across country and communities.
Starting in Wyndham, the tour has been to Warman, Halls Creek, Fitzroy Crossing and Bidjadanga, just to name a few. Musicians come together to create experimental music, performing their work for remote communities and engaging with the children.
There's a sort of personal connection that gets made between the students and the performers that leaves them, the students that is, with a sort of lasting memory and lasting experience.
Artistic director Tos Mahoney has devoted most of his life to music and bringing it to the most remote parts of our state.
It creates unique musical experiences both for the artists themselves and for everybody, all the audiences and schools that get to experience them.
Now in its 10th year, the Echo Tour regularly brings out entire communities to see its internationally acclaimed musicians. Mark Atkins is recognised as one of Australia's finest didgeridoo players and has been performing on the tour for the last 4 years.
Playing with old mates and getting out into the communities and going through some country. It's all inspiring and yeah, it's great.
Simone Kerr, GWN7 News.
End of the week. Time now to look at how the markets have been performing over the last 7 days. Here's Tracy Vaughan from Plum Grove.
Both West Australian milling grade and noodle wheat prices have rallied this week as the US futures market saw the bounce we have been waiting for. Behind the rally in the US market is the fact that Russian values are finally rising, as Russian logistical issues begin to limit the amount of tonnes they can export each month. The world is also paying attention to the dry conditions on the east coast of Australia, which is limiting our production estimates. Another factor contributing to the move is the fact that US speculative funds are net short, so any risk to global production can sway them to cover their position. The Australian dollar fell significantly yesterday after the RBA governor dismissed recent talks of a rate rise. This has benefited WA canola prices, which are again above $550 a tonne. The strength in our canola price can also be attributed to the wet weather delaying the Canadian harvest, which has been adding strength to global canola markets.
Thanks, Tracy. Coming up, some team news ahead of the Southwest Footy Grand Final and runners and riders getting ready for the biggest race in the goldfields. Bunbury Bulldogs coach Jamie Narney says he could be making 2 changes to his side from last weekend ahead of this Sunday's South West Football League Grand Final against the HBL Lions. The season decider will be a rematch from this year's semi-final series when the Lions defeated the Dogs by 36 points 2 weeks ago. Meanwhile, Lions coach Derek Hall isn't sure who to drop with the return to the squad of 2 players who weren't available a fortnight ago. Both teams will hold their final training sessions tonight ahead of this weekend's clash. Bounce down is scheduled for 2:30, Hands Oval on Sunday. Champion horse trainers from all over the state have descended on the goldfields ahead of Kalgoorlie's biggest horse race of the year. And with $130,000 at stake, they're leaving nothing to chance.
This Sunday will see the year's biggest party in the Goldfields. The Kalgoorlie Cup is the centrepiece of the racing action at the Kalgoorlie Boulder Racing Club, and around 7,000 people are expected to watch on. But aside from the crowds and the partying, the day is built around one of the most prestigious races for WA trainers, and they're leaving nothing to chance. It's set to be an impressive field for the $130,000 race. This year's favourite is Kalgoorlie owned Shintamani. Her trainer Sharon Miller has complete confidence in her horse.
She's very tough, so she suits travelling, and she's done really well up here. It was a good run last Sunday in the Boulder Cup.
Her hopes of a win will be boosted with champion jockey William Pike at the helm. He took out the Hannans handicap on Wednesday.
He's a great horseman. He's a leading rider, so yeah, it has to help.
And for local trainers, they're hoping a home ground advantage will be the thing that gets them in front.
My granddad was a trainer and my father was a trainer, and I'm a 3rd generation trainer, so Kalgoorlie Cups, he won it in 1956, my grandfather, so.
Kalgoorlie trainer Peter Fernie has 3 horses in this year's race. He won the Kalgoorlie Cup in 2014.
Fingers and legs crossed. You never know, in big races you're always a chance. They're local, so they handle the track.
Gates open at 12 on Sunday. The Kalgoorlie Cup is on just after 4.
It's just the prestige that goes with it. It's been around a long time. When you're a local, that's what you inspire to win when you're training horses.
It's been a man's town, so it's nice to come up here and show you that can get amongst it.
Kate Ryan, GWN7 News.
Now for a look at what's biting and where, see if we can get some fish on the hook for the long weekend. Here in the Dunsborough-Margaret River area, there are plenty of dewfish, breaksea cod and pink snapper off Hamelin Bay and Cape Naturalist. Around Albany, there are good catches of squid, sand whiting, herring and skippy near Michaelmas and Breaksea Islands. Much the same for Esperance, with herring, squid and skippy being picked up at the Taylor Street jetty. And in Kalbarri, pink snapper, coral trout and ball-chin groper have been biting. Off Exmouth, trevally have been turning up in the lower areas of the Gulf, along with queenfish, yellowfin, bream and the odd mangrove jack. Barramundi catches have improved in the Fitzroy River and the local creeks up in Broome. And the Wreckfish West pick of the week shows young Brodie Ogle with this whopping ball-chin groper was caught off Jurien Bay. Sean is back next for a look at all your important weekend weather. And then ahead in 7 News, the freeway flooded, trees crashed down in another day of destructive storms. Now, Fuel Watch, keeping you informed on where to find the cheapest fuel prices where you live across WA. For a larger list of towns, check the Fuel Watch website online or phone 1300 304 054. Let's get the latest on our weather, and Shauna, today's cold front still packing some punch.
Yeah, thanks, Noel. It certainly is. The latest severe weather warnings cover districts from the Great Southern and Central Wheatbelt right across to the Goldfields and Eucla, and of course the South Coast. Still gusty winds to the west, but severe weather is likely to ease towards midnight. Tonight, the damaging storm should be pushing across southeastern parts of WA, and then behind all that tomorrow, the winds and showers should continue to ease further, although we may get some small hail to the south coast. For Sunday, it is heavy falls over the lower and southwest, up to about 60 millimetres. As that low system approaches, we're looking at showers pretty much southwest of a line from Exmouth to Kalgoorlie and then right down to Israelite Bay. Those showers will be increasing then through the afternoon as well. And then into our next working week, Monday, the rain should extend even further. We're talking about it pushing up through here into parts of the Pilbara, and then right across you can see much of that sort of southern half of WA. Again, the heavier showers are expected over western and more southern parts, certainly to that southern coastline as well. And it is a very similar weather map we're looking at for Tuesday as well, along with possible thunderstorms over areas sitting sort of south of Kalbarri down that western coastline. And again, moderate to heavy falls are expected, particularly to coastal areas. Meanwhile, there is no change north. Enjoy that. Dry and warm. 39 for Kununurra. 33 is the top there in Broome. And look at plenty of sunshine as well for Karratha. 31. 30 is the top there for Newman. And Little Cloud, 28 for Exmouth. There is a chance of rain to the Gascoyne coast. 23 tomorrow for Carnarvon. A possible shower, a few millimetres, and 21 for Geraldton. 19 degrees at Morawa. Wet, windy and possible early hail to the south. Bunbury, 17 degrees for Albany. You're looking at that 15. And there is a chance of rain moving up through here into parts more of the wheat belt. 18 is the top there for Merredin. After overnight storms, a few showers and 17 for Esperance tomorrow. Now, rain and winds should be easing later, of course, through the Goldfields, and 19 is the top there for Kalgoorlie. Here's the water. Streams 10 to 15 knots off the Kimberley coast, but generally it is a little fresher further south of that. Strong wind warnings for waters on western coastline tonight. Now, for the Lewin coast as well then tomorrow, but conditions easing through here above that. And strong wind gale warnings are in place for southern waters right along that coastline. A sunny 33 for Sydney tomorrow. Adelaide, wet and windy 22. And for Perth, it is 18 with showers. Have a great weekend and happy holidays to all the school kids.
Thank you, Shirley. Before we go tonight, the Federal Court has cleared the way for a mineral sands mine between Broome and Derby, dismissing an appeal against the development brought by a local Aboriginal group. Sheffield Resources are now ready to develop its Thunderbird mineral sands project, producing titanium and zircon. The company says it's planning to employ locals from Broome and Derby instead of FIFO workers.
After the construction period, the project will have 280 full-time direct jobs, of which we aspire to 40% being Aboriginal.
Well, that's GWN7 News for another week. We'll have updates for you later in the evening, and you can watch our bulletins anytime you like on YouTube. For news, also anytime, go to gwn7.com.au. And for all of you involved in this weekend's Blessing of the Fleet and Whale Festival in Bustleton, have a great time. We do hope the weather does you a favour. From our team across the state, good night, Western Australia.